time for the sport. Here's Matthew.
Good morning, Claire. One of the striking images of yesterday was a photograph of 29 Liverpool players around the centre circle at Anfield, all down on one knee, tweeted by many of them and the club with the slogan "Unity is Strength" and the hashtag Black Lives Matter, very explicitly getting involved in the political and social ferment that is taking place, in particular in the States, but also more widely around the world. And obviously at the weekend, we talked about this yesterday, other footballers, notably Jaden Sancho of Borussia Dortmund and Achraf Hakimi of the same club, both revealed T-shirts calling for justice for George Floyd, the man who died in Minneapolis. His death sparked all this off, of course. Now, Sancho was booked because he took his shirt off on the field of play. And there's been talk from lots of campaigners calling for players to use their platform to continue to get their message across. So where does football draw the line in all this? And sport more widely, we can speak to Brendan Schwab, who's head of the World Players Association, the umbrella body for sports unions. Good morning, Brendan. Do you see a difference between what Liverpool did, not in an active game, and what, say, Jaden Sancho did?
I think both are welcome. Both gestures are welcome, where players are using their platform to speak out for justice. And I think what both initiatives have in common are that they are peaceful protest. And the question should be whether that would be permitted on or off the field. And I think given difficult times that we're confronting, given that athletes are often criticised for not taking a broader approach, I think that it's very important that athletes exercise their right to freedom of political expression, and that sport doesn't take a disciplinary approach in response to that, that sport embraces its social role in helping bring about positive change.
I mean, we are seeing sport, in particular in the States at the moment, players and organisations, particularly the NBA and others, getting involved. But, in a political statement, in a sense, by definition of the word politics, there are going to be people who disagree with what someone says. Do you understand a difference between something happening on the pitch in a formal match setting and, say, what Liverpool did? And should that be policed in some way?
Well, I don't think so. I think what's really important, if we look at football, a couple of years ago, FIFA made a statutory commitment to respecting the internationally recognised human rights of everyone who's involved in sport. It did so in response to the crisis that FIFA itself was confronting, which came to a tipping point because of the abuse of migrant workers in relation to Qatar. The human rights at stake there were labour rights, the labour rights of those migrant workers. We can't really pick and choose when it's appropriate for us to respect human rights. We have to embed it in every element of what we do. And we think it sends a very troubling message for sport to be taking a punitive and a disciplinary approach to athletes who feel the need to communicate important messages at a time when peaceful protest is something which is being commended throughout broader society.
Sure. But you can understand, can't you, the concerns of organisers. If someone chose to make a political statement revealing a T-shirt or whatever in a place where it was particularly controversial, where it would anger people, then that's a security issue, isn't it?
Well, the right to freedom of political expression is not a blanket right. It is subject to conditions which, again, are embedded in the international instruments. We can't use freedom of speech, for example, to incite racial hatred. We can't use it to incite behaviour. But in these circumstances, if we look at what's happened, we've had a very poignant protest by players at a time, and I think sport is strong enough and indeed has a responsibility to say, look, let's not overreact to that. Let's understand the environment in which we're operating, and let's be supportive.
Brendan Schwab from the World Players Association, thanks very much for joining us on Newsday this morning. In an hour's time, we'll hear from tennis players Frances Tiafoe and Ian Broomfield, who put out a very strong video yesterday.